This is the jellyfish jelly, probably the most cruelly obtained substance in Bikini Bottom. This purple delicacy is introduced in the episode Jellyfish Hunter. The episode starts with Spongebob singing like a maniac and bolting across the jellyfish fields with his net. Also, he wears his glasses, which, as far as I know, he only wears when he's reading or hunting jellyfish. Spongebob catches a pink or lavender or lilac or, you know what, let's just call it purple. He catches a purple jellyfish and then gently tickles it with a feather until it sneezes jelly into a jar labeled simply jelly. I think the show's producers added that sneeze sound just to make it less weird. Anyway, once he's collected the jelly, he sends 12 on its way, which is what he calls the jellyfish, because it's the 12th one he's caught for the day. And then the jellyfish, in a lazy way, zaps him and buzzes off like a gelatinous bee. But then he sees the blue jellyfish and says, "Oh, it's you," with audible reverie in his voice.
"Oh, it's you."
He then catches it easily. No, I'm joking. Of course not. Instead, he mimics the blue one's motions as if to blend in and convince it that he's one of them. But that doesn't work. So they have this kind of showdown on a green hill where Spongebob tells No Name that he's caught and numbered every jellyfish in the field except for him, of which there are 4 million, by the way. So No Name tells Spongebob to bring it on in some jellyfish language that sounds like a phone vibrating on a desk. Now, stealth mode is forgotten, and he tries his best to catch the blue No Name, while ululating some loud war cry, and just running as fast as he can, until that's not fast enough. So he turns into a rocket ship, which, I would have just done from the beginning, but even that isn't fast enough. No Name buzzes away, unmilked of his jelly. Yeah, I heard how that sounded too. But let me know if there's anything I missed in this episode. Follow, like, and share your thoughts and comments. Sorry. Cut to the next part where a money-counting, distracted Mr. Krabs gives SpongeBob an extra minute for his lunch break, to which he responds with utter joy, because that's a minute longer than the previous day. After slathering his Krabby Patty in purple jelly, he eats it, moaning with delight in a "I'll have what she's having" moment, which honestly made me get up and go make a sandwich myself. But this also gets the attention of a curious Krabby Patty customer, on whose burger SpongeBob plops a dollop of jellyfish jelly, and the taste blows the poor fish's mind. So he goes on social media and tells everyone about it. No, of course not. This was the year 2000, so he does what people probably did back then to get other people's attention. He sings some kind of jazzy show tune about it as he upgrades everyone else's burgers with the purple goo.
Yeah, I just had a sandwich. No ordinary sandwich. A sandwich filled with jellyfish jelly.
And this is one of the funniest parts for me. I don't know why. Mr. Krabs says irritatedly, "SpongeBob, who's playing Squidward's records again?" It just gets me every time. Anyway, SpongeBob explains, and at first Mr. Krabs cries mutiny because his sacred recipe's been messed with. But then he comes around and gets some kind of greed-triggered fit, which gives us a good clue for what's to come. He then propositions SpongeBob to go catch some more of that money fish, and SpongeBob obviously agrees, because it's his favorite thing in the world. In a blink of an eye, he's back with a fresh jellyfish ready to be tickled. But Mr. Krabs tells him they're going to need more than that. To this, he asks with genuine childlike inquisitiveness how many jellyfish they're going to need.
"Sir, how many jellyfish do you need?"
And then, this next part is very important. Mr. Krabs tells him the ecosystem, which is the restaurant, needs to be fed. Let that sink in. He then continues, playing on SpongeBob's feelings, asking him if he's stopped caring for the customer. This is all SpongeBob needs to get back out there and hunt a few more jellyfish. But as we see Krabs staring maliciously at the oh-so-sensitive jellyfish in the jar, we know that he'll want much more than a few. SpongeBob returns with 3 jellyfish, while Mr. Krabs is repainting the sign outside the restaurant. He says, "More." SpongeBob catches another 25 or so and returns with them in jars, while Mr. Krabs is rebranding the inside walls. But he says again, "More." This goes on, and we see SpongeBob's jellyfish catching technology evolving from a mere jellyfish net into more sophisticated methods, like catching them with fake living arrangements, which turns out to be a giant net trap, essentially betraying the trust he took so long to build up, and using a robot version of himself to catch them remotely, presumably so he can be at two places at once. More. It just goes on. Until the jellyfish population is down from 4 million to 0. That night, when there's nothing left to catch, SpongeBob is followed by something malicious. At first, he thinks it's a salesman stalking him, an interesting throwaway thought that connects with the story's theme. But actually, it's Bluey. That's what I'm calling him, Bluey. The whole thing freaks SpongeBob out, and it gets even worse when he gets home and receives a call. That's just heavy breathing.
Hello, SpongeBob's house. SpongeBob speaking. Hello?
And then we see wires being cut, which SpongeBob tries to rationalize away by saying that Gary the Snail probably didn't pay the electricity bill. I love how that's Gary's responsibility.
What?
Then something sneaks in the front door, cloaked in shadow. Unsure and frightened, SpongeBob follows the thing into the kitchen and finds a Krabby Patty with jellyfish jelly, and he's in heaven. Until he realizes it's blue jelly. And suddenly, Bluey reveals himself, holding a net and a jar, which is so cool. Actually, the way the no-named blue jellyfish finally hunts and catches SpongeBob, instead of the other way around. And I actually have a theory about this I'll share at the end. SpongeBob is caught in a jar that he says smells like, and I quote, big business. But instead of being tickled and milked, thank Poseidon for that, SpongeBob gets taken to a factory where Bluey shows him what's really going on. All the caught jellyfish are moving through pipes and on conveyor belts, milked by robot hands, rolled out like dough and squeezed like lemons, until they're finally dropped in a bin like rubbish. A complete opposite of the first scene of the episode. But at least in one part of the factory, they try to keep the jelly sneezing process natural with a tickle robot. But it doesn't have SpongeBob's gentle sensibilities and depletes and discards every jellyfish it tickles. What monster is responsible for this horror? SpongeBob asks. And then he sees it's Mr. Krabs, powering the whole thing by riding some hooked-up bicycle contraption. And honestly, he could probably use the exercise. But I digress. SpongeBob is taken aback, but now he understands why he was brought here. On the back of the blue jellyfish, they burst through the window, and SpongeBob confronts Mr. Krabs, who of course tries to trick him again by telling him it's just a tea party.
Having a little tea party.
Really? The idea of a tea party with all his jellyfish friends excites SpongeBob, but Bluey pokes him and brings him back to his senses. He then delivers a speech that makes Greta Thunberg look like a climate change denier.
This was their fate. This isn't right. Jellyfish need wide open space and fresh air.
And then attempts to free all the jellyfish. At first, it's a struggle, but then Mr. Krabs, in a moment of stupidity, unlocks the voice-activated cage by saying the password out loud. After Krabs tries to get away on the stationary bicycle, and before the jellyfish leave the factory, they leave him with a massive combined zap that convinces him to take jellyfish jelly off the menu. And SpongeBob vows to never use his net for evil again. And then, as a prize for this revelation, something amazing happens for SpongeBob. Bluey, or No Name, moves into the net, showing that all is right with the world, and all is forgiven, and SpongeBob finally names him Friend. But something small but very significant happens in the last few seconds of the episode that I think many might have missed. After SpongeBob calls the blue jellyfish his friend, it shocks him so hard his hand swells up, which is the perfect ending message for this episode. Don't mess with nature. It bites back. Now, except for the fact that Mr. Krabs is funny as hell in this one, it's probably one of my favorite episodes because of the way the environmental message is conveyed without sounding too preachy, and rather using clever imagery and symbolism. When we see SpongeBob wearing his glasses in the first, we know this is a delicate job for him, hunting and tickling the jellyfish. Close-up, detailed work. And unlike how the factory discards the emptied jellyfish like flat balloons, he releases each one back into nature, maintaining balance in jellyfish fields. The way that the jellyfish gives him a small shock after the sneezing and then buzzes off again, quite content, shows us that this is a regular occurrence, one that they're actually okay with, if done with mindfulness. It's also cool how the blue jellyfish is somewhat of a Lorax character, a sacred guardian of nature, which is why he can never be caught, and he even sacrifices a bit of himself, some blue jelly, to eventually catch Spongebob, in order to rescue his species, which to this almost godly creature must have been extremely degrading. What's great is the way they show Spongebob's duality as well. He's got two ecosystems to worry about, the jellyfish as well as the customers. He genuinely loves both these things, but in the end, the customers win this tug-of-war in his heart. That being said though, he thought he could trust Mr. Krabs to look after the jellyfish like he does. To SpongeBob, it's inconceivable that anyone would treat them any different than they're supposed to be treated. The whole episode is commentary on how corporations are destroying the environment and how they abuse, use, and trick good people into doing their bidding. But there's one part that I really love that brings everything together. When SpongeBob says the inside of the jar smells like big business,
Ew! What smells like big business?
that is just amazing. Such a small moment, but so layered. Big business is a euphemism for, well, feces, crap, turds, dookie. To me, this little moment where corporations are compared to excrement is just so well executed. Blink and you'll miss it.